YouTube, this is a Satsu 5, and this is a video about a code of honor, and it's going to touch upon dueling and battlefield code of honor. This video was spot on because of a video Matt Easton made. He was answering questions. It was a Q&A, and someone asked, what was the fear of let's see, how can I say this? What was the fear and the consequences from God if you retreated or turned around and ran in battle, basically deserted? And he's talking about a medieval battlefield, or possibly Dark Age battlefield, but basically, what were the consequences for being a coward from God? And he mentioned that there really wasn't anything like that. That God was a comforting thing. When it came to battle, he was always talked about as God see me through this. God help me. God give me strength. And it wasn't. They didn't fear him as if they were a coward. And I have a feeling that very few warriors in the medieval times were cowards. Also, I'd like to point out that if they were cowards and they ran when they weren't supposed to run, they were probably executed from the king, or not by the king, but was ordered to be executed, because the feudal system was such that the king owned this land, and then he gave that the king gave that land to a lord who promised allegiance, and that a lord would give that land to knights and noblemen who pledge allegiance to him, and then on the very bottom, they'll give land to peasants. The peasants would pay the nobles, and the nobles would pay the lords and the kings. It was a feudal system. So if you got all this land and you pledged your allegiance to a king and you didn't fight for him, well, you lost your land at the very least. But I wanted to talk about the code of honor between warriors and civilians. I don't have the best knowledge of medieval time period. It's the time period I find interesting. I like it. Well, it's very interesting to me, but I'm not as knowledgeable about it as I am of other time periods. And I'm going to refer to the 16, 17, and 1800s and the 1900s. Well, not hundreds. 16th, 17th, and 18th and 19th centuries. Dueling was a big thing. At least 1700s. 17th century, 18th century, and 19th century. And I'm also going to reference the Civil War as well. And the reason why I'm referencing the Civil War is because, you had lines of people, shoulder to shoulder, marching towards Gatling guns and artillery without running away, and they marched to their deaths without, moving, without running or breaking formation. What makes a person march towards their death, it lined up shoulder to shoulder, a broadside basically, to gunfire? And it's tied in, it bleeds into the dueling system and the code of honor. Basically what it boils down to is that men back in that time period greatly valued their reputation, their honor, their last name or their surname, and a man without integrity and honor was pretty much worthless. And you fought both figuratively and literally to preserve your honor and to preserve your good name. And that's why those duels over the stupidest thing. There would be a strange girl that you don't even know, and some man might treat rudely, and then you'll go up and challenge him to a duel where y'all potentially fight and kill each other over someone you didn't even know. Also read of another account where these people dueled over farm animals. I don't know the exact details. It was like goose or a goat or something, and I guess they were arguing over ownership or something, and they dueled each other over that. If you know, it could be as simple as someone not saying "excuse me," and there was a duel over it. And it could be done with rapiers, it could be done with knives, guns, but basically your honor was something worth dying for. If you prove to be a coward, basically you lose all social standing. You can't get a job, you can't support yourself, you're ostracized, people won't have anything to do with you. So that's why I don't think people necessarily feared God. God was a comforting thing, but that was very much the reason why you have last stands. And first off, watch the movie Iron Mistress. You'll get what dueling is about in that movie. Although it's not historically accurate as far as Jim Bowie's life, it is a good representation of the attitude back in that time period. But I think one of the best movies that sums up the whole code of honor thing is the movie The Alamo, made in 2004 with Billy Bob Thornton and Dennis Quaid. And I don't know how many of you have watched it, because many of you don't live in Texas. Certainly almost everybody in Texas watched the movie, but it was a Hollywood movie, and it was, you know, people all over the United States could watch it, and you could probably find it on not Netflix, maybe Netflix, but you can get it on iTunes. Awesome movie, and Billy Bob Thornton played David Crockett. And towards the end of the movie, or the end of the defense of the Alamo, David Crockett was talking to one of the other defenders, and he said, "You know what? If it was simple old Davy, or if it was simple old David, he preferred to be called David. I would sneak over these walls and take my chances, and run and escape. But David Crockett, the man who could jump the Mississippi, ride a lightning bolt, and grin a coon out of a tree. People expect things of him. And pretty much what he was saying, I could probably sneak over the walls and live, but I won't have much of a life. My reputation would be permanently ruined, and I wouldn't be able to, do anything. I'd basically be homeless and without any friends. So it very well sums up the thought that, I have a reputation to uphold, and it's worth dying for. And, those other things you could say, because David had a chance to leave the Alamo. William Barrett Travis offered any of the defenders, hey, if you want to escape, now you can do it, and you can do it without being ashamed, and I won't hold it against you. Those weren't his words, but anyways, he had the chance to leave, but there was other things that played into that as well. He might have believed in the Texas cause, starting a new life for himself. Of course, the fact that many of the people in the Alamo were brothers in the same fraternity. So, there was a brotherhood thing there. And so, there's many reasons why he might have stayed. One of the few defenders that actually survived, he was a defender, but he wasn't at the final battle of the Alamo, or the night that the Alamo was captured, the last day of the siege. It was Juan Seguin, a Texas patriot. He was Hispanic, he was Italiano, and William Barrett Travis sent him to Sam Houston to deliver a message, and he did that. And he really wanted to fight at the Alamo. He wanted to be with his brothers at arms, and he wanted to die at the Alamo. He didn't necessarily want to die, but he wanted to be at the Alamo on the final battle and fight with his brothers at arms. He believed in the cause, and if it meant dying at the Alamo, that means that's what he was going to do. But he didn't get that opportunity. He went to Sam Houston. Sam Houston said, "Hey, I need you here. I need you to, command this group of people." And Seguin, he did go back to the Alamo like he promised, but everybody was dead. And he buried some of the remains, basically ashes. He couldn't do a proper burial, but he did, attempt a burial. It was very sad. He was later captured by Santa Anna's army and forced to fight in it. But he was a true Texas patriot, and he's often overlooked. Have a lot of respect for him. One of the cool parts about the movie, there's a lot of controversy or legend about how David Crockett died at the Alamo. Some people say he was executed. Some people say that he died fighting with 16 dead Mexican soldiers around him before he died, that he clubbed to death because he didn't have a bayonet. Both of which, he died a hero. There's no doubt about that. But in this movie, he was executed. He was cuffed up or tied up. This was one of the cool parts about the movie. I really enjoyed this about the movie. They're fixing to bayonet him. Santa Anna says, "Do you have any last words?" And David Crockett says, well, he sees a Mexican soldier with a coonskin hat. And he goes, "Ah, David." And he goes, "Tell Santa Anna that I'm willing to negotiate his surrender. If he promises to lay down his arms and set me free, I will escort them to Sam Houston, and I'll try to save most of your lives. But it looks kind of iffy." And then Santa Anna was offended, and he makes the signal for him to be bayoneted. And then the great last act of defiance. Of course, this is Hollywood, but I like it. David Crockett says, "I must warn you, I'm a screamer." And when they go to bayonet him, he goes, "Yeah!" He can't fight. So, but it was a good movie. But yes, your last name, your integrity, your honor was something worth dying for back then. I'm not saying that it's good that people need to place more value on honor and integrity. It's something that's lacking today for some reason. I'm not saying they should kill each other and duel each other over it with rapiers, knives, and pistols or anything else, but people do need to place more pride on their last name and their integrity and honor. So that's it. I hope y'all have a great day. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out. By the way, the reason why I'm telling you all this, I think it bleeds into the medieval battlefield, and I think a lot of the soldiers and knights of the medieval battlefield felt the same way about their last name and their honor, and they didn't want to be a coward and ruin their reputation. So that's it. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out.